All right. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As someone who is Muslim and who also writes science fiction, I wanted to first say that I don't know compared to how God knows everything. And that I'm a human being on earth, and the way my life has happened so far, I can see this whole human life of ours as a story. And my mind has seen it from this story from different angles to the degree that it has found itself capable of internally perceiving cinematic scenes of the future. Do you know? So in some sense, like the way I write my science fiction, and I have a twin brother, he's an amazing author himself. He actually got me into writing. My first sci-fi book was dedicated to him. But the way I write science fiction was that I had no inclination to, but I would go for walks, and suddenly out of nowhere, and because the way my inner sight works, the way my mind happens to me, it happens cinematically. It happens in other ways as well. But I'm saying majorly when I think about things, I'm like, it's just like an editor in a room seeing the footage over and over again, or having an ability to see footage, right? I have that sort of relationship with my mind. So when somebody speaks to me, I'm like verifying what they're saying in accordance to what images the words they say creates for me. Okay? So in my internal visual capacity to perceive, I would go for walks and I would suddenly see scenes, like get a glimpse of how something would look like in the future. Or I would look at something now, for example, a table at a coffee shop, and my mind would say, what would it look like 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now? Keep going, you know? And so my mind had an ability to envision the changes of a phenomena faster than it was happening to the phenomena. So the interesting thing about life, or anybody who has any interest in writing science fiction, when you write science fiction, you're wondering about the future of a character. Now, there's different strategies. For example, my twin brother, when he writes science fiction, he creates the whole world and then creates events in the world. For me, it's as if my mind gets glimpses of events of another world or some futuristic situation and scenario, and then I come and connect those situations, and then I use my own vision and creativity to reconnect to connect those events into creating them into a storyline. So I would say I'm one of those sci-fi writers who had the privilege of the sci-fi inspiration cinematically appearing to him, but in glimpses. Think of something like that. But later on, because I had truly in these lectures dived into what is the human being, what am I, what is everything, what is the meaning of reality as it is happening, and all of these mysteries, as I had dived into it, the one problem I had to answer was that, okay, what is the capacity? So you see, right now we're living in the sense like treat, just for example's sake, and I'm saying this with utter respect. I believe in God. Okay, I believe that there's an existential system administrator. So, and right now, the existential system administrator is present. It was even present here before I was born. So, anyways, with that consideration, it's as if imagine the world is God's novel, and we are like characters in this novel. And as characters in this novel of God, right? Imagine now a character has decided to write its own sci-fi novel. And what that means is it's like a human being taking the responsibility. The human being is taking the responsibility to create everything, but in a miniature kind of like, with the freedom of their vision on the paper. So in this episode, it's kind of like I'm giving people a sort of writer's workshop. You understand? I'm explaining to you how there is a metaphysical component to writing a science fiction novel. So to write a sci-fi novel, to make it easy, you pretty much here. I'll make this like this is a quest. This is Mr. Within's quest for those who are called towards being authors, like sci-fi writers. And the idea is if you have seen something futuristic in your mind, usually this happens a lot for people, but they don't do anything with it. The only people who do anything with visions of the future are writers. Do you see? And in some sense, entrepreneurs. You see, everybody gets a value proposition when they open their eyes consciously in this realm. This value proposition is fascinating, but when the question, the true title of the episode being introduced now, after what, like 8 minutes, where is everything? Where is everything? Everything that we can fathom, everything we can do, everything that arises from some sort of a spark of human intelligence and activity. Where is everything? We say, like, if somebody says, yo, where's my car? They'll be like, yo, man, it's where everything is. And somebody's going to be like, that's not helpful, but that's the truth. So where is everything is saying, hey, what else is there more than your vision of reality? Now, this is something that I realize for the modern world, it's still a backroom notion, cultural notion. What that means is, imagine there's like, I'll give you an example, person A, person B, person C. Person A walks into reality and they see a coffee shop. They go in the coffee shop and they drink the coffee, right? Get the coffee. It's just everything's normal. Person B goes into the coffee shop, but as they are in the coffee shop, they're thinking of like, man, what am I gonna do when I get to work? What am I gonna do tomorrow? What am I gonna do the next day? What am I gonna do with this, that? They are going through the same scenario, but they are not there. Where they really are is where they want to be. Or where they're going, right? It's the future. So I'm saying, like, it's not that everybody's kind of like living with the future in consideration. And the thing is that when you don't know how the future happens, the human being gets excited. If you know how it happens, then you just get the burden of administration, but then you see you cannot do perfect administration, so it wants your imperfections because you put such an effort to live that you saw your limitations, and you it broke your heart, but at the same time it was a mighty outpost to reach. You see, dear listener, what I'm saying is, whether you're a philosopher, whether you are whoever, just a person wondering about what, well, okay, I'm alive somewhere in some system, what is the implication of this? And when it comes to creating a character, so let's say, you know, some podcaster called Mr. Within told you to go get grab a bunch of printer paper, put it on a completely empty table, and grab one pen, right? And if you did that and you wanted to create a world, you'd have to start with some sort of scenario, right? And usually it comes down to a character, you know? There's many ways to write a sci-fi novel. It's like a mountain. The inspiration from it, it's like your own pathway to it. So to create a character, you would then question, okay, what does the character look like? You found the physical features of the character, you found the physical features of the world, but then the next question is, what are the intelligent features of this reality I'm creating? And when you look at something now and you truly wonder how far it can go in the future, and you have a capacity to cinematically envision this, you know, think of it this way. It's like those who wonder truly, it's as if the moment the soul entered the world and was conscious that it's somewhere, it's like, yo, they think I'm a philosopher by choice. No, I am technically nothing because everything is so big. But for the sake of human cultural consideration, I have to ask, where am I? You see, human beings, it's all about safety, right? It's like the person says, I feel safe. Imagine someone who comes and says in some scenario, human species, I don't feel safe being here on Earth, just existing. And we're like, sit down, son. We gotta explain to you that you see this candle, you know, this candle's gonna melt and it's gonna die out, it's gonna end. You know, and we're like that, and we have we're here for some time and then we leave. You know, that's the narrative we're going along with, right? Every person I see, they're like, I'm completely changing topic direction here. I'm just saying, when you wonder about where is everything, you come to the edge of your mind. When you come to the edge of your mind, you come to the unknown. When you come to the unknown, you realize the unknown is more than what you know, and you're just this biological organism, and you have a brain, and you're here for a little while, and shyness was a deception, and reality just deserves the true expression of mankind. So what kindly? What it is we as human beings. I'll take it here. Like this is my vision. Honestly, what I can't avoid it. It's like the whole talk is basking into just truly who I am giving this talk, right? And honestly, if somebody was like, "Yo, where is everything?" I would be like, "It is beyond language." So if you want an answer in language, I'll give you one, and the moment you take it, I'll know you're a fool. Because you see, it's all about authority. If you want to imagine like a street smart creature in the wilderness of a cosmic jungle began to calculate, okay, where is value? So the person's like, okay, the value is in myself. I have to pilot my own experience. However, in piloting one's own experiences, one begins to get acquainted with the various ways that life is standing. So the thing is, it's kind of like it's one world ultimately, and the author of the world is beyond the book, but the book is the author's creations, creative expression. I'm saying when I try, I have created, like, how can I tell you? You could say that I'm like a sci-fi writer to the degree that I've actually written stuff, right, about it. And the thing about it is, like, the way it happens is honestly that I just sat down and I asked myself, like, okay, where is it all going? Let's say even if I knew where everything is. And they're like, it's here. Oh my God, everything is here. And then I asked myself, okay, where is everything going? And then, okay, I figured out where everything is going. Then I'm like, okay, how is everything going? Then, okay, I figured out how everything in the world is happening. Then what? And eventually we see it's this bizarre scenario where everybody's doing their best, trying to be the best version of themselves, but it loops. So the meaning of life is better consideration that the God is watching, and let it be your great performance, but not out of being succumbing to the past or the future. You see, I dabbled in both to the degree where I was like I found like God when I truly believe, truly God, like, see, it was something that was experientially proven to me. Okay, that there is the creator here. That if this was a system that's existing, there is an admin. Okay? And the relationship I had with that admin was in a relationship where, in a moment where I couldn't do anything, I legit reached the limitations of my egoic powers. And I reached the nullification point where I was like, holy shit, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It was legit like somebody pulling out King Arthur's sword, but accidentally the sword just goes into their chest and they're like, whoa. Do you know? Was it right to be wrong? It's the poetic idea of the realization that, honestly, what are you waiting for to write on that piece of paper? Have you not wondered about where all this is going? You know, to me, there was a time where I had become so, like, I don't know why, I had for like some time this, I think maybe it lasted 3 weeks when I was in Dubai. This is a while ago, I think maybe like a year ago, right? And then and then what it was like I had this view, sorry, 2 years ago, but I had this view that what it actually was was that I had this superiority complex, and I felt that every human being was a farm animal, but the barn was language. And I felt like, my God, a slave among slaves. And they're like, why aren't you smiling every day? Right? So I had this mentality, and I would fearlessly I had become some sort of, how can I tell you, just like some lightsaber of just, I don't know how to tell you, but I looked into everybody's eyes wherever I went, because I never shifted my eyes from where I went, right? Consciously. And it reached a point where I looked at people, and I'm like, everybody deep down is like this system that's happening, but we don't know how. Like, how are you here right now? And whatever story we give it, it's the story, it's not it. So, welcome, dear human beings, to 2024, where human beings had, in some sense, just like aging wine, in some sense, basked in the culture of their of their egoically claimed modernity, and then they felt a hollowness, and this hollowness was felt globally, and the species wondered what to do. And then the era of the great acknowledgments had to begin. Do you see? Like that, this is how you write a sci-fi novel, guys. You wonder about, it's like, let me tell you how you become an incredible sci-fi writer. When you look at fiction and you're like, how could this be true? You see? Like, sometimes I ask myself, they're like, Mr. Within, what's your deepest question you ask yourself? I'll be like, I'll tell you. How am I not in a flying car and giving this talk right now? That's what I want to know. Every human being, let's consider three levels to them, to the human. First level, very obvious, everybody knows, it's the physical level. The physical level is the level of the body. So if you're even writing a sci-fi world, let's say you figured out what kind of world you want, right? And then when you figured out what kind of world you want, you create a character in that world. That's where you start, right? Because think of it this way, this is how directors think. The camera has to be the eyes of something. So you're droning your own character, and the sci-fi world kind of is created in accordance to that. But this is all in your inner sight. Then it reaches the complexity of the cause and effect, residual outcome. So in some sense, what happens to this character you've created? But let's get to the point that, let's say there's a character, and we wonder, man, I lost the trail, yet we shall climb a tree. Three levels: body, mind, soul. What does the body want? The answer's been given: survival. The next question is a bit different. What can the mind do? And as a Muslim, I remember reading the Holy Book, and I remember reading the quote, not the quote, the holy words in the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says everything starts from God and everything returns to God. What does it mean to be free in a world that never existed? What does it mean to be free in a world that has such a complex hierarchy authorization, but ultimately is singular truth? I think about, all right, I created a character in a world, let's go there. And now this character has a relationship with itself. It has a relationship with others, and it has a relationship with the world, and it has a relationship, if it's wise, with God, the author. All right. Time to hear a podcaster, a human being, answer the question, where is everything? And I was saying that there's three levels, so there's three answers to it. And to finish off the last point, the body wants to survive, the mind has the opportunity to serve, and the soul, it just needs to connect with the Creator. That means throughout the day, there has to be moments where the person just forgets everything, even the significance of themselves, and acknowledges that the system administrator is administering the system. Have faith. Forgive. Repent. Guide mankind to the highest and most advanced plateaus of communication. You know, to be religious doesn't mean like, oh my God, that person just functions under those ideas. No. It means this system has an admin. Everybody who goes to work, their boss is their admin. You know, when you take your dogs to the park, you are the admin. So there is admin administration everywhere. You know, if you own a car, you are the admin of that car. So there is administration being acknowledged, everything, right? And yet we don't acknowledge existence as an administrator, and we have cut ourselves off from the possibilities of greater realities, where God was never just an idea that a person could touch. In reality, it was just a pointer that that which created reality is uncreated. Where you are, there is something beyond here. You know, it's like the person, went to the reception and shouted, and it's like, yo, why does my room look like this? And the hotel receptionist was like, ma'am, have patience. We haven't even shown you the room yet. This is the lobby. And the lady's like, oh, okay. All right. And so what I'm trying what I'm trying to say It's when you truly experience your limitations, you settle down into what you are. You then get to truly see it. You get to see how much of life is just happening and how it's happening. The idea that it has an admin, it was an idea that startled me at first. Not startled, but when I sincerely bowed, when I became where I felt like some, you know what it was? I felt like I was reaching my ego's victory, but then I reached a point where I couldn't go any further. And I noticed then it was like that energy to like be a future self that I couldn't anymore was like reverting back, like reflecting back onto me as like a sort of self-destructive kind of mode, right? So it's like when the creative output was denied, it turned into some sort of self-destruction, right? And I remember I reached a point where I felt like, okay, I'm sinking. I can feel that. But I felt like my soul was sinking. And I remember that moment where I made a prayer, and what happened next convinced me there's an admin. So my whole life, the author of this story we're all in has been here. So when I give this talk, it's with the maturity of realizing that the human species has the capacity to see beyond itself, to no longer worship itself. It has a capacity to see others, to see beyond others and not just worship others. It has a capacity to not just see the world, see beyond the world and not just worship the world. So what it means is deep down, that part of you that is not convinced that what you see is what you are, that instantaneous knowing, it's as if, like, I think if somebody goes and asks, if someone is like, hey man, quickly answer this, your first gut answer. And just yes and no. And the person's like, all right, I'll answer it, right? And so the person says, are you a soul? And then the person's just suddenly instant answer, yes. Why? Because we see our mind. Who's that seeing the mind? So the idea of soul is very fascinating. God is real. And in this existential system, in the wondering of our behavior, in the wondering of what a character among other characters in a certain context can do, I think really what it is one, as one gets older in life, they begin to see all the things that they thought that were important, that had to happen. It was important to them, so only so you are like, you become responsible for how far your vision is or goes or what you see, right? Some guy has no idea to write a sci-fi book. He goes for walks in the park and constantly sees futuristic scenarios and then eventually writes them down and it becomes a novel. Where is everything? To the body, it's, in a world called, we're in a world. To the body is in like some giant landscape. When it comes to where is the mind, where is everything, that answer to that for the mind is, it's where I am. So the mind is like an instantaneous assurance. So everything is being for the body, like instantaneously here. For the mind, it's how the mind is being here. That's more important than how it physically is. And the only reason we have emotions is because we are beings that on one it's like like a coin or like a double-edged sword, like a coin is a better example, that on one side, right, we're these biological physical organisms and we have these minds that communicate, but from the other side of the coin we have no clue what's outside of our subjective domain. So those who truly discover the limitations of their vision, that's when they bow to the source of vision. Because this life, there's moments I've had, and these moments are where I'm like alone, just, and this is the best time to quit smoking is before you smoke your first cigarette. But really, there's moments where I'm outside and I'm just looking at the world. And I look at it and I'm like, look at this. I'm being a being in a cosmos, in a world with all these billion stars, and I'm being in a world where all that I can see and fathom and how everything happens is under the administration of God. So it's as if not only am I blessed with an infinite giant landscape and fascinating way that life is designed, and not only am I blessed with an ability to see variations of this world and then make decisions and be something in reality, but I am also blessed to be present. It's as if my whole life, what is a test? It is a performance evaluation. It's as if not, it's like an honor. I am being tested by the Almighty, and I am also accessing a realm. Now, if I choose to just be a personality and just a name and a thought and an idea to people, and an individual concept and character in a story, the issue with that is that it only encapsulates the domains of body and mind. And I was like, okay, what's an atmosphere where those dimensions can be studied further? And really, it's through marriage, I think. There's moments where it's weird, but I have a nostalgia of the future. There's moments where I'm like outside looking at nature, at trees, and just the street, and just scenarios, like scenes of our world. Like I'm just looking, and I just get like this kind of like smile, like this smirk or this smile, like kind of like with a nod, subconscious nod, as if I'm seeing that moment from the future, and I'm like, look how simple it is now. And the most important thing is, when you wake up in the morning, connect with the system administrator. And I'll just tell you this, try it out for a day, but you have to be sincere. And this is something it's just, I'm telling you, this is what it is. If you truly have found a moment where you cannot surpass your limitations after post your greatest effort, then you have come into the conclusion that, oh my God, it's not just karma, do good and good stuff happens. It's that there's an intelligence system here. And so this means if there's a hierarchy to this intelligence, what opens doors for you? And I realized that the reason I was called towards religion and becoming a singularian and only having my focus and attention and communication with the other world, everything is directed at God, and just constantly asking for forgiveness. Forgiveness for what? There was a beautiful prayer. It was like, for the sins that I've done that I know, and the sins that I've done that I don't know. To that degree, we seek the mercy to, and the reason is once you repent and feel that forgiveness, your honor restores. But now, so for me, I'll be honest, before I truly became Muslim, like as a reality, I was doing something that from the Muslim approach would be called shirk. And I didn't even realize it because I felt spirituality was the peak of the mountain of truth. And it's like somebody acting like spiritual and suddenly being like, whoa, it doesn't even matter. We just have to be purely, truly, absolutely honest. That's all. Be honest. Because the absolute is watching. And if you honor the absolute truly deep down in your heart, the one and only, not a character, not any worldly form. Do you understand what I'm saying? So believe it or not, the advanced view is to figure out the advanced power. The advanced power is the originator of the reality. The originator of the reality is not a person, but human beings have experiences. Yet, in holy books it is written that God chooses who it reveals everything to. So this means that is somebody, how divine is someone, nobody knows. It's beautifully veiled, as if God knew what it was doing when a bunch of confused animals just howled at why they were manifest. So we have come to the point where we have to consider advancement, but what I learned later was that at first we had considered the advanced creator. If somebody was like Mr. Within, you know, do you have some sort of a team of advanced people, are you building something like that? And I'll be like, if I ever did, this meeting would be something like, okay, who here acknowledges that there is only one true God, and that God is beyond its creation? And those who do, I'd be like, okay, so you're not in a relationship, in a business, or in some sort of team effort with me. You are at first in a relationship with your creator. That's the relationship you need to pilot first. That way your soul is redeemed and you can express pure energy while you're alive. And God knows what you truly deserve. There's no one who can tell you. That's what I realized. They're like, yo, man, don't trust anybody. There's liars. It's all a simulation, da-da-da. And I was like, no, man. It's all a brilliant symphony. But it's not a symphony you hear with your ears. It's a symphony of seeing something happening and suddenly being like, wow, like suddenly a dam being opened, or like suddenly a waterfall releasing for the first time. It would be as if like suddenly, a majestic moment where nature is shaped. So to me, it's become amazing. I would say this idea that, I would say that there was these two guys, Marshall McLuhan and Buckminster Fuller. These two guys, geniuses of their time, in some sense acknowledged this idea called spaceship Earth. And so they saw the human species, this rock floating in outer space, poetically as a spaceship, and we're all on it. What are we going to do? Now, for me, in my creative, capabilities, what I started to do was that I began seeing reality in the sense of pilots and cabin crew and passengers. What can I say? Where is everything? The question was asked. The podcaster wondered what to say. And the answer came. Everything to the body is everywhere. Everything to the mind is the mind. Everything to the soul is the will of the Creator. And so this means that if you are of some sort of system that is functioning as a soul body, soul mind body, or think of it as if you're a soul and the relationship you have in a body as a body is how your mind happens. Right? So your mind is how the soul has a relationship as a body. But now the question is, this soul is being tested not on just physical conduct, but is being tested on mental conduct. And mental conduct means, just like a businessman looking in the mirror and making sure their suit looks like, is perfect. Similarly, it's the conduct of our attention. I can't tell if this song is sad or hopeful. It's kind of gotta find something else. Alright, samurai meditation music, let's go. Honest guys, what can I tell you? The question, these are the possibilities. Where is everything? Right? And philosophically, technically doesn't have an answer. Why? Because everything includes where everything can be. Right? Because everything is all there is. So right from the bat, just to exist as a physical being, the philosophy of materialism is that, everything is existing and happening as one event in one moment. We're all existing in one world. But when you look at human psychology, we are physically all accessing like a singular server of existential manifestation in this system. But then the notion comes, what is beyond the physical server? So the mental server seems to be a private server. So the public server is how you're physically existing in a world happening as a singular event. The private mental server is how you only get to see how your mind is happening. At least this is why I would smile when I would look at the world. The freedom to be something uninterrupted. And so the nature of man, the attention, whether you're a samurai in a battlefield, having no choice to defend your village, or in some sense being someone who has never, done anything, and in some sense, imagine a monk in a temple, right? So the notion comes that, Acknowledge the singular. Go directly to the system administrator, and then once you truly acknowledge that that's the authority, then you relax and faith happens. Faith is the byproduct of the amazement that a person finds when in some sense they see how life happens beyond the expectations of the private server, of how the mind interprets reality. And for the soul is the secret of God. That means there's a third server, but we don't have access to it. Technically, when we sleep, the soul goes back to God, they say. Or God takes back the soul. So I don't know how other human beings want to see it, but this song has let me down. This song might let me down. All right, yeah. Whatever, let's go with this. Where is everything? For the mind, everything is where the mind finds where consciousness happens. For the body, where everything is the body's like, where is everything? And the mind's like, let me just give you a name and so you can relax, kiddo. Right? So in some sense, we're on Earth, in the Milky Way galaxy, in the infinity. So inside infinity, like an infinite information system, we're like, yo man, what do you believe in? We're like, relax, bro. It's a massive system, and the fact that it's happening at all with its specific constants, and it's like just the way that it's not worse than it could be is divine. All praise goes to the Lord of the worlds. Alhamdulillah. That means I don't know really what the ultimate is, but in my opinion, the human species will go on making certain decisions. It makes sense to acknowledge the system administrator. Then, with the guidance, with having faith that you're being guided by the system administrator, not guided by, but you trust life. You don't create indirect relationships with spirit guides or with, deities, or with characters that can be, fiction. The notion is the point of God is actually God cannot be fictional. Do you understand? Because it's beyond the world. And fiction is how the world deviates from how it's shaped, but it's still a shape. So God is the most advanced position. Once we acknowledge, we have honor like a warrior that in some sense has bowed to the emperor beyond conception, and now is like, okay, there's nothing to fight. The task is what can advance in this system, right? So the notion is the quality of expression, and the quality of expression you have as a human being has to do with the depth of your vision. The depth of your vision has to do with how deeply you followed, like Alice went into a rabbit hole. Similarly, you go into the rabbit hole of a question that is like deep. It's like a deep root. It's like the person's not a philosopher. They just wondered about how everything is, and so when they did, they realized in some sense that originally the concept, the question arose from a subjective reality. So the answer is not just physical, because then it doesn't. We have to wonder about, okay, what does it mean? But meaning is subjective. So we're like, being objects, but what it means to be an object is subjective. So we're subconsciously being simultaneously being subjects. But then how we choose to be a subject, because we have free will, indicates that there's like a third level, the soul. So the soul gets to choose out of the different ways it sees it can act in a situation, one of those ways. So before you choose to act upon a thought, it's like the space between your thoughts is where the soul's always been, right? But the soul is the secret of God. All that we know is that there's a ranking system. And let me see if I can figure out what the term is. Oh, there we go. It's called the world of the souls. It's called Alam al-Arwah. And so this is the idea. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. In the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Araf 7172, where it's stated that God made all the progeny of Adam bear witness by asking them, this is the statement from the Quran, Holy Quran, "Am I not your Lord?" And they all affirmed. So yeah, this is what's mentioned there, right? Am I not the author? But aside from that, I believe it's in a hadith where it says in Alam al-Arwah, the souls have ranks, and when they are born on earth, if you see two people don't get along because they're souls of a different rank. If you see somebody being mistreated because it's souls of different ranks are colliding. Right, and I think the divine justice is to protect souls and to put them in situations where God makes man capable. It's like God puts man in a situation where God has already given the ability for that soul to go through that situation. Because ultimately, whatever happens, whether we're alive or whether we die, the notion is that everything that ever was, that means, let's say you got an answer where everything is, but where everything is going is it's returning to the author. So the value of the existential artwork is going back to the author. This means the character in the novel of the author of the world is like, okay, I get it. I'm a character in the story of existence, and I am a character, a member of this existential system. So I relax. But my vision is that humanity will reach a point where it's going to realize that if God was here from the beginning, there was nothing to worry about. And we, in some sense, just have to focus that throughout the day, have moments where our attention goes, like if you're okay, let's say when you wake up, from the time that you wake up until the time that you sleep, in those conscious waking hours, okay, let's say that your attention from the beginning of the day is onto yourself, then you meet some people, so it goes on to others. Then when you don't meet those people, then it comes back to yourself. Then you meet more people, it goes back to others. Then you go for a walk, then you see the world. Like then your attention goes to the world. Then you come back and then you sleep. And then before you sleep, your attention has already like is winding down on yourself. Now, the point I'm making with the system administrator acknowledging God is that really from the moment, like even right now or any moment, right, just acknowledging it's not just strangely miraculous how everything is here, but it's also strangely miraculous that we can't know where everything is going or how it's happening, but we know that it's going the origin. It's like it's a circle. It's kind of it's like a round circle. The story of the world. And so all that I was left, you don't know, when I prayed for the first time and truly bowed, you know what it felt like? It felt like, okay, that sense of self that had burdened me so many nights. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? It's like that all stopped. And in some sense, there was no choice to be left in the silence until, that divine moment came where I let go of the self that didn't know any better. And right now, again, I feel like I am a servant, not a servant of only that. So it was like the great question of who are these talks for that I've been giving. I always wondered about that. Who's the audience? And I realized that it's all for God and for all that God has done. But yet, as a human being, there's that level of access. It's like I can think just as a human being. I can think as if just being a phenomenon. There's so many ways the attention can move. Yet it has to first direct itself to the direct power source, God. And then faith means like, okay, now it's okay to put your attention on reality. And once you put your attention on reality, this has to do with what kind of incredible human being you want to be. That's it. It's funny. There was a time where I was like, I've had the privilege of that guy doing something that like I felt embarrassed about, but it brought laughter to the whole environment. I remember I did something that it was so bizarre. I don't even know how it happened. It was as if like this was when I was in grade 10, and we had for physical education like this teacher. I think his name was Mr. Cardone or something, and he brought everybody into this court, like wooden ground, and all of us were half, and there was this volleyball net set up, and he came up to us and he's like, all right, everybody, don't drop the balls, right, when I'm talking, right? And the moment he said that, right when he started to like say the first sentence, out of nowhere, the volleyball fell from my hand, hit the tip of my foot, and exactly went towards him. And everybody that was there was like, wow. I felt so embarrassed. All right, let's take this somewhere. Somebody says, Mr.Within, what have you been talking about for an hour? I'll be like, God knows. When I write science fiction, right, because I have a natural take on it, right, I kind of not honor, but it's kind of cool seeing my limitations. So I realize the range of capability I have. In the range of capability I have, it's constantly wondering about what happens to the human experience. And as a person who doesn't have children but wonders if I did, who would I be? And it's not just that. I wonder about where am I? Like, what's the point? How important is continuity of infinity under the administration of divinity? And I treat it for now because it really is to me very important. It's like the person's like, yo man, before your job as a human being, you have a job as a soul in the presence of the Almighty. This means relax, rest, forgive yourself, others, and the world for what it is. And this is where we are in the beyond any voice and worldly shape and form that can take you back to an infinitude. There is no God except God. La ilaha illallah. There is only one truth. And that's how simple it is. Acknowledging the administrator of all that is happening as we are. Now, once we acknowledge that, we come to world design, we can relax. And when it comes to the sci-fi world design, the important factor is what happens to the character. My approach is I need to have the capability to see my novel as a film before I write it. Guys, I'm gonna do something I've never done before. Not never, but like I haven't done in an unthinkable amount of time. I'm gonna go on Discord after this. And wipe off the dust of an ancient relic. Honestly, where is everything? To the soul, it's where God's decree is. To the mind, it is where it is. To the body, it is part of everything. So it is where it is. But it also, because we can walk on the earth, it is where everything is. So on some level, it's just a human consideration of, it's like a summation attempt. Anyways, guys, I think I should end this episode. Thank you for listening. Our attention should be beyond the world and then function in the world with the faith of that which is beyond. The original power, God, the one and only, beyond any man's words, beyond even what I can say. And through that acknowledgement, when we acknowledge, all right, we gotta assist them, we gotta not just help the animals, help the human beings, we gotta also serve the absolute intelligence. Doesn't mean we we can't be ourselves. It means we just have to acknowledge God is here. So it means we're on Earth. We don't have like advanced supercomputers yet, but we do have an advanced original source power administration to how reality happens, right? So there is that, right? So at least to me as a human being, it was such a unique turnaround, as if I saw something that I couldn't my mind couldn't convince me the other way. It was real. It's real. God is real, honorably speaking. So aside from that, when I think about art, what is the capacity of the human being? The capacity of the human being to me is in some sense an effort to constantly recreate a life, and it's as if we're tasked with updating whatever we're happening or wherever we're happening. Now we're tasked with updating it with ethics, and the ethics of this is important, right? So there's one consideration is freedom, but if freedom is disorganized, that's just chaos and hiding, right? So in some sense, mankind is united under God, which is an invisible common denominator for the whole manifestation. It's invisible. Why? Because that's the term you can use for it, for something that is beyond the world. So once you have, I'm saying it's, this is the strange thing. Well, you need to have a sort of faith beyond this world. And then once you function in the world, it's as if you've connected to the system's administration flow. And then it's as if the mind, there isn't an ego thinking, oh my God, what do I have to do? It's more like, let's see what happens. Let's see what the system administrator decides what I am is worthy of. And what I am's worth is based on how I have approached my world. And as we pilot through the clouds of the fascination of a changing world, through an utmost poetic attempt, where is everything is not only where the mind is, where language is, where matter is, where God's attention is and decree is. It's beyond the capability of conceptualization. And that's when you get real with life. Like, okay, they're not forbidden zones, they're just like zones that are inconceivable zones. So once you see the divine administration surpasses what you fathom, and in religious, in the holy book, there's a phraseology, I believe, that is something like, okay, if you try to if you try to give your something, that's limited to your imagination. But if God wants to give you something, it gives you that which is beyond what you could imagine for. That means if it's a perfect gift, it's perfect for all moments. If it's imperfect, it's imperfect for all moments. So it means there is no hiding in the presence of this collective original witnessing of the truth of God. So God is the system administrator is here, and as I'm giving this talk, at any moment I'm open. But the idea is it's beyond the worldly, so faith is the only position. Faith in the one and only. So now in the consideration of all the different ways that the question of where is where, right? So it's like it's the weird, strangest question to have ever been asked. Like, I should get a Guinness World Record here. Where is where? The strangest question asked in 2024. Yeah. There's so many ways our attention can move. Our attention can claim where it is as the absolute. It can claim where how others are as the absolute. You can want your future self. You can want others. You can want the world. You can want so many things. But eventually you see you're just like some energetic expression. And the question is, why are you here? And that's equivalent to like, where is everything? It's like, why are you here is like the question of like, the soul that remembers beyond what the mind forged. It's like I would talk about how we're all advanced communicators, and advanced communicators have advanced communication, but then a most advanced communication doesn't come from a human. So God is the most advanced communication, the most advanced communication, expression. So in reality, I feel like, whoa. It's like, imagine having a giant robot protecting you, but it's not a giant robot, it's God. Why? Because you're acknowledging the system administrator, because it's a system, it's occurring, everything's occurring as a system, right? So in a system, there's an admin, so the member can choose to be like, yo, deities, or like that shape or that person, please help me, tell me, like, pray for me, all of this. Sure, but I think that those are wrong. That a person should just go directly to the system administrator, because that's the advice that's been given. So as I release myself by constantly really repeating this, the point of it is the intelligent interaction levels reach a point where you consider the most intelligent interaction is the presence that you are being watched. It's like an ant on a boardroom meeting table suddenly like attaining the consciousness to understand what the boardroom's talking about. Like, you understand? Like, that ant would be shocked. Oops. So anyways, thank you for listening. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Bismillah ar-Rahman. Where is everything? I believe everything is in God's will. What does that mean? That means the effect cannot fathom the causal power. And if it attempts to fathom it, it reverse engineers to the unknown, which is God, God's will. So technically, God knows what man can never. Yet mankind, human species, is like, we're chill. We're like, all right, we cool with that. And then we advance with the consideration that we're in the presence of the mightiest force. Thank you for listening. Good night.